Greetings, greetings, greetings to Augie's Worldwide. Um, got lots of people here. Let's see. From Denmark, from Virginia, Nebraska, and Atlanta. And I just changed screens here. Let me change back to the live stream. Come on. I got a new computer. It's an HP gaming machine. I got the gaming machine because it will do a quicker edit, and things respond very quickly. But I got to tell you, I put OGS on it. I figured OGS, which is the streaming software, and the new computer would work very well together. So far, that's not the case. I wish I had an OGS expert that I could call up. If you are one and would like to volunteer, do please let me know, because I'm having some trouble with it. I got the logo in this shot right here, but I was not able to get the overhead camera to work today, so we'll have to get that fixed. Okay, let's see what is going on. Oops, come on. Okay. Anyone knows how long before the live stream starts? It starts on the hour, on the top of the hour. Now, one thing that's interesting, this coming week will be on daylight savings time, so we kind of got to decide, do we still want it at 1900 UTC, which is the time it is right now, or do we want to stick with noon Mountain Time? We're going to jump ahead an hour, so that would be at 1800 UTC. I'm easy. Either way. I would say we stick with the UTC hour, because that it catches most people around the world, but a lot of people in the U.S. might want to stick with the noon hour. So do say something about that. Yes, Steinmetz and Einstein concluded in 1920 that the ether must exist, but Einstein gave up on that idea. Maxwell's equations don't require an ether. Let's see. Hello from Atlanta. Okay. Lots of... Oh, been looking into the Alexanderson alternator. Yeah, they just had that on over the holiday season. Apparently people around the world were able to hear it. It's a broadcast at very low frequencies, about in the 100 kilohertz region. Hello from Israel. Hello. And Wisconsin. And here's a couple votes for 1900 UTC. Took a weekend class, passed on Saturday or Sunday. Congratulations, Tommy Boy, on your technician, and welcome to Ham Radio. Another vote for Zulu. Rig up and running. Let's see. No matter what I try, I've not been able to receive any contacts in several months. It's had the rig up and running. Wow. Stumped the members of the local club, I guess. Something in the rig that affects the audio output, I would say. There's a vote for noon Mountain Time. Okay, there's Maine, and so on. Okay, well, I've got it set up. This is, like I said, a new computer. I've got it set up so that I can show the top screen, and so we can show websites and things like that. But I don't have the overhead camera working. The software seems to think it's there, but then it's not there. The other thing that has disappeared from the OGS window, it used to be on the upper right was what was actually being transmitted, and what was on the upper left was what was on deck. Well, now I just have one screen, and it's what's being transmitted right now. So part of the learning game, I guess. Okay. There's a request to stick with UTC. Taking a break from building the QCX? Well, good for you. Just wound and mounted T1. Well, I had more trouble with T1 than anybody should have. I actually got to the point where in my pathetic attempts at desoldering T1 so I could check the wirings again, I actually lifted some pads from lifted some traces from the circuit board, and so I ended up having to do all sorts of weird things to get that thing connected in, but it does work. It does work now. Okay, there's another vote for UTC. All right, let's get started with what we've got going here. We're going to look at questions. The stack of questions is getting longer, and I apologize for that. This first one is from Doug Dukes. It says, my interest in ham radio is basically MCOM. By the way, ham is not an acronym. A lot of people are treating it as one. And I think I know where it comes from. The FCC's two-letter designator for amateur radio used to be HA. Well, they've gone to three-letter designators now, and it's HAM, and of course they're capitalized. It's just a designator. You look at something, some of the other radio service, and they've got very weird initials. It's just initials that are used to kind of designate it. Through history, it's not been capitalized, but a lot of people do these days. My interest in him is basically MCOM, so the fact that my antenna allows me to talk with South America is not as important to me that I can talk within my own state and surrounding areas. Any thoughts on short-range HF antennas? Okay, the thing that you need to learn more about, and I want to write the initials here so that you can see them. And you look this up on the internet. NVIS. It stands for Near Vertical Incidence Skywave Propagation. NVIS. This allows your signal to go more up than out, and so it will tend to reflect back down within an area about 500 miles or so. Now, the two bands that are used most for that are 80 and 40. Usually 80 at night and 40 in the daytime. If your emergency groups are using 60 meters, it's also a good NVIS band. Now, an NVIS antenna is 1, horizontally polarized, and 2, closer to the ground, usually around a quarter wavelength high. It can be lower. It can be lower. It's really hard to get an 80-meter antenna a quarter wavelength high. The optimum height is a half wavelength for normal DX, things like that. But as you bring it down to the ground, the lobes come up until you get to the point where you're transmitting mostly straight up. That's called near vertical incidence. The angle of incidence and the angle of reflection, you remember those from high school physics. It's the angle at which the signal hits the ionosphere. It's near vertical. Okay, so that is what will get you your inbound. But read up on NVIS. It's a whole interesting project from itself. And Surprise, Arizona. All right. Randy in California. Okay, and Justin, thanks for the suggestion. All right. This is from CP Geek. Do auto tuners really work as well as manual antenna tuners? Yes, they do. I have found with my auto tuner, which is an MFJ 993B, it handles up to 300 watts. Sometimes it doesn't quite get in. There's a couple buttons on it that you can use to just kind of click it one step one way or the other, and get that SWR right down to 1 to 1. But in general, they work just as well as manual antenna tuners. They work a little faster. Now, there are some situations that will fool them. They have a bunch of fixed coils and a bunch of fixed capacitors, and they will try to measure the SWR and then figure out in their microprocessor what the actual changes should be in the antenna tuner, and sometimes they miss a little bit. That's why on all of them there's a few buttons where you can kind of tweak the thing a little bit. If it's a remote antenna tuner, you're not going to be able to tweak it much at all. But yes, they do. Okay, this is from Xander Marks, and his question is, when you started, on what bands were you active? 40 meters. I'm learning for the novice at the moment. Okay, he's in the Netherlands, and I'm listening on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Those will be very popular bands for you. There's also a 4-meter band in Europe. I don't know what your privileges might be in that regard. Greetings from Bergen op Zoom in the Netherlands, and I know that I've horribly pronounced that. From JO21DM. All right, well, yeah, on HF, my favorite band is 40 meters. 20 during the daytime sometimes really opens up, but 40 is a good workhorse band. These days with the low sunspot cycle, it will kind of close up late at night, but you can often get an FT8 signal or something like that. Okay, here's from Jeff Ramirez, who is new to ham radio. He takes his technician test in a couple of hours. Well, that was on Saturday, February 16th. So, Jeff, I'm hoping that you got that and have your call sign by now. My question is about call signs and how people throw them around all the time. Yes. Hams tend to become identified with their call sign. So somebody at my club might say, and what does OG think? It becomes a new name for you. Call signs, how people throw them, I mean call signs in privacy. As soon as you throw your call sign out there, people can see your address. Yes, in my case, they see my P.O. box. Of course, it is required every 10 minutes and at the end of the call. But I see people use call signs so loosely online as well. Yes. Isn't anyone worried about putting their address out for everybody to see, or is that just me? Jeff, I've never encountered a problem with it. We need to remember that it used to be, it's not so much anymore, but your name, address, and phone number were in the telephone directory. Now that everybody has moved to cell phones, there aren't telephone directories for cell phones. But it used to be that, if I were where I grew up in Los Angeles, I mean, the telephone books were that thick, that somebody could find your name, address, and phone number right there in the phone book. So the idea of public directories is not new. I wouldn't worry about it. Now, you need to observe Operation Security, OPSEC. Do not say on the radio, "Hi, I'm heading to the airport and I'm going to be gone with my wife in Hawaii for 2 weeks." You just told a whole bunch of people that your home is going to be unoccupied for 2 weeks. That's not a good idea. And when I get on the air, I don't talk about whether the house is left empty or not. Things like that. Prudence is a good word for it. Okay, this next one, old Kenwood 2-meter radios for single sideband. This is from Russell Whitaker, W1TKR in San Mateo, California. Let me just, okay, so 20's not open today. Can a band off-center dipole be fed at the same point as a fan dipole can be? The whole point of an off-center fed dipole, single dipole is that it can be tuned on many bands, so you wouldn't be attaching a bunch together. Heard of a CRT substitute devices for test instruments? All the test instrumentation has gone to flat screens these days. I've got a signal generator and an oscilloscope. They're both flat panel screens, and you can get some real nice views out of them. Color, of course. Let's see. Hey, I'm also from Atlanta metro area. Oh, okay. 4 meters, yeah, in in region 1, which is Europe. In many countries, there's a 4-meter hamband. So you get 6 meters, 4 meters, 2 meters, and so on. There is no 4-meter hamband in the United States. Those are military frequencies in the United States. Let's see, Lilburn, Georgia. Yeah, it'd be nice if we have it. What would OG do? OG, that's the big logo right there. Oggies are subscribers to OG. Would Vaseline help coax reduce UV sun damage if spread on it all through the coax? You don't have to. Most coax is already UV resistant, and the Vaseline is going to make it clingy and get it dirty. So I don't think you would need to do that. Let's see, Russell Whitaker here. Hi, Dave. I have a pair of Kenwood TR 751A 144 megahertz almost transceivers I picked up from the free stuff table at Baycon recently. Wow. Both of which are suffering from an apparently well-known failure of the volume squelch potentiometer mechanism requiring replacement, for which OEM parts are practically impossible to obtain, but of course could be worked around. Have you personally used one of these transceivers? No, I have not. And would you assess the repair effort to be worth the time and money if my goal were to try out 2 meters sideband in CW with the units? That's up to you. Some people consider restoration of old radios a hobby unto itself. In fact, there's a magazine devoted to that called Electric Radio. And if you go to ermag.com, you can learn more about that. Let's see if I can do the top screen, and we will go to ermag.com. Okay, that's Electric Radio, and you ought to look at this. It's a little expensive, but that's because it's a small magazine, okay? It doesn't have huge numbers of subscribers, and the advertisements in it are classified ads, and they're free for subscribers to put in there, so the expenses all get paid by the subscription fee. But it's a great source of information for those interested in restoring old radios. From a strict point of view of is it worth the money, you can buy other radios. The FT991, ICOM makes them too, the DC light radios that will do 2 meters sideband in CW. If it's just a potentiometer, a single potentiometer, I'm sure you can squeeze in a modern one and do something with that. Okay. This next one is from George Kammerzel, N0ZED. Okay. Said, not an Ask Dave, but something got broken in the tech playlist. Yes, the tech playlist is in flux. I have finished all the updates for the tech videos with the help of Julian Vonneberger. He pronounces it with the German pronunciation. He grew up in Germany. And we have some more things to do. He's been sick, so I haven't been able to get him to update the tech playlist. We're going to take all the old videos off the air by making them private, so they'll disappear, and we'll just have the new set. And then the next thing to do is to create a thumb drive that's got the novice videos on it. It will be far less expensive than the extra one. The problem with the extra videos is that they take about 40 gigabytes of space. So that means a 64 gigabyte USB drive, and those are not always cheap. I usually get them on sale up at Home Depot. They run about 20 bucks a piece, something like that, sometimes 25. And then there's postage to pay, and they've got to be written and all that sort of stuff. But I think the tech videos will take far less room, and we can use less expensive thumb drives to put those on. Okay, it says something got broken in the tech playlist. Yeah, it is kind of a mess right now. Please be patient. We'll get that straightened out. I do link to your YouTube channel from the Clackamas ARES org site. Must be in Oregon. And WordPress complained to me about a broken link. Yeah, and I see the whole playlist is missing pieces and parts. It is. And I apologize. That is high on the list of things to be fixed. Okay, let me go back to my live dashboard. We've got 86 people watching right now. He says there are still some advantages to analog test equipment, notwithstanding nostalgia. Yes, and they're still out there. You can get the analog oscilloscopes, the old Texas, no, they're Tektronix, no, Tech. I can't remember the name, I'm missing it. But yeah, they're out there. For a dipole or off-center fed antenna, what would be the best feed line to use? 300, 450, 600, or low-loss coax? I'd go with the 450 ohm ladder line myself. You'll need a tuner. Would an 80-meter vertical work for short-range local comms, or would I need to use an NVIS? If you're going vertical, you're using an entirely different mode of propagation called ground wave. Okay, and ground wave is vertically polarized, whereas NVIS is usually horizontally polarized. So you could have cross-polarization issues. My only 80-meter antenna at the moment is a vertical. I had a big loop up for 80 meters, but I did so little on it, and it didn't work really well, so I took it down and cut it up and made more radials for the vertical. Pick up other bands. The most offset dipoles in the market will not allow you to do. With a tuner, you can, yeah, there it is. Tektronix was the leader there, very much so. Okay, this is from Brandon McGrew, KD9 LOA. And he asks, what is the process like with the FAA when you build a tower 200 feet or more? What forms are there, what fees, etc.? You'll have to contact the FAA for that. And your local building department might know. If you're going to put up a 200-foot tower, first of all, let me warn you, that is a seriously tall tower. I do not know of any hams personally who have a tower that high. 100 feet is a little more common, but you'd have to ask the FAA how to do that. My hex beam out there sits on top of a full stick of Schedule 40 aluminum pipe, so it's 20 feet up in the air with another 2 feet or so after the rotator and so on. So 22 feet, and I think that's probably about as high as I'm going to get. Mark Strawcutter, looks like the Islands HD1 is now FCC Part 90 certified. Yes, the files were up there when I did the review, and then they disappeared, and now they're back up there with a March 1st date. This is from KA2BKG, Jeff Gunther. Says, I watched the SWR video. Why would the SWR go up with power increases at the transmitter? Generally, it would not. It's an intrinsic property of the antenna with feed line. The two together should have the SWR. What we're getting when you do more power is you're discovering the nonlinearity of the instruments, and you're finding out that equipment available for amateur radio is not as accurate as lab-grade equipment. That said, let me introduce you to this. There was an advertisement in QST, in the October QST, for this particular analyzer. It's from Germany. It's a quasi-kit. There's a few things left to be put together. And then it gives you more than just the SWR. It gives you all kinds of things, and you can put it on the computer, connected to the computer and everything. And the software, which I'm trying to figure out right now, is horribly complex. That's going to be my next video. It's going to be about this. So that's coming up this next week. And I've been trying to learn how to use it well enough to do at least a first cut on the video. The software may end up being in some separate video after I figure out how to use it. It is not intuitive. Okay, SWR. Currently have 1 to 1.3 at 50 watts, 1 to 1.7 at 150 watts, and close to 1 to 2 at 200 plus watts. Frequency 144.2 megahertz, roughly 120 feet of LMR 400. The antenna is basically a dipole solid aluminum element just on the ground at 7 feet to 1 to 1.2, but only checked at 5 watts there. The antenna is 30 feet. One of the things you have to take into account is the cable loss, which can affect the SWR, but again, that should be an intrinsic value, not something that varies with power. So I have to admit I'm as puzzled with you. I would think at the higher power you get a better view of what the SWR really is. So I don't have an explanation for what that would be. Heathkit test gear, yeah. You know, Heathkit kind of started making test gear. I think they started with an oscilloscope, then got into ham radio, and they always had other stuff too, besides ham radio equipment. Can long wire antenna be bare wire and touch branches and other non-conductive materials? Wood. Live tree limbs, if you break through the surface on those from rubbing, you get into the sap, and the sap is more conductive. If you're going to run it through branches and stuff, I would recommend insulated wire. Chinese have also come up with a $55 antenna analyzer. I wonder if it's something like this. This was it says $189, but you actually buy it in euros, and it was like 183 or something like that when I got mine, and that's postpaid. And there's a lot of funny things about it I'll try and put in the video, but it gives you a lot more information than the classic antenna tuner that I have. Okay, this is from Jose. CX5 BDE. So Dave, what would be your choice for a field day? An M-Pass chameleon antenna, a buddy stick, a buddy pole, or an alpha military antenna? My choice for field day would be a dipole. If you want to run a vertical, a buddy pole is not a bad idea, but I'm not familiar with the other antennas. They're all compromise antennas designed for portability, which is why I would suggest the dipole. It'd be nice to get the dipole up in the air. If you only have one tall pole, make it an inverted V, and that will work almost as well. They're not so cheap units, so I'll also think of homebrewing one. Yes. Recently, I bought a new A99 Solarcon. It resonates around 27.9 megahertz with the adjustment rings at the top position. For 10-meter operation, do you suggest to cut it or instead use a tuner? In many countries, CB is quite active with a large overlap between CBers and amateur radio operators. It doesn't, in the United States, hams can sometimes be dismissive of CB, but that's not true in the rest of the world. If you really want to get the thing to 10 meters, trim it. It's best to get the antenna working where you want it. Now, there's very, very little activity on 10 meters these days. Sometimes at dawn and at dusk, you can get some very interesting propagation, and occasionally it will be open right in the middle of the day for an hour or two. Occasionally. That's with the subscription, with the current sunspot cycle. Let's see, MR100. Your videos can be reduced in size to less than 16 gigabyte without significant loss in quality by using a converter. I'm using, yeah, it'd be nice to have something. I use OBS software for the live stream because that seems to be what everybody else uses. When I look at videos with the wonderful things you can do with it, I can't seem to do that with it. And I'm using the latest software. Are those stamp albums on the shelf above my left shoulder? No, those are photo albums. Lots of them up there. I do have a bunch of stamps from the Philippines from when I was a missionary over there for the Mormon Church back in 1971 to 73. So I've got some really cool Filipino stamps from that era that my mother saved from my letters home. Okay, this is from John C. Campbell, WA0BJY. Dave read your article on solar powering your rig portable. Trying to plan and build a solar power supply to operate my... I apologize for that. There we go. Trying to plan and build a solar power supply to operate my FT857D HF ham portable. Was thinking of attaching 4 SAL 12-volt 7.4 amp hour batteries in parallel to get up to about 30 amp hours. Is it feasible to solar charge maintain the 4 batteries connected in parallel with solar power? Yes. What size solar panel and controller do I need to keep my batteries maintaining power to operate my radio at 100 watts transmitting power? 30 to 50 watt panel will do it. I want to keep the system small and light as possible. Don't forget the charge controller. You don't want to overcharge them. Now, one of the problems with putting the batteries in parallel is you can get differential charges between them, differential amounts of charge. So be careful about that and read up on it, but it can be done. My big battery pack is 4 6-volt batteries wired series parallel for 10-volt, for 12-volt operation. Okay, I'll get back with Bill when we're done. Usually when Bill calls, it means there's something wrong. So, let's see. What do the sunspots have to do with propagation? The answer is everything. Just trying to, someone mentioned Dave's audio is distorting, too hot. I can turn it down just a little bit there so we don't get up too hot. Hopefully that will help. It's showing in the green and yellow here. Let me just pull it down a little bit so it's mostly in the green with just a little bit of bump. Maybe that helped. Let me know if that helped. That was from Jonathan Endersby. Let me know if that helped. If you want to hear some CBers in the ham bands, just tune this. Those guys on 7.2 megahertz are hams, and there's a current issue, like there used to be with 14.313. And unfortunately, it takes years to resolve those things. There's nobody right on top of these things. This is from Roger N6 Whitey T. Check your Facebook messages. I sent you a message over the weekend about DMR. Oh, that's Roger. My friend Roger is a high school buddy. Yes, I got the message. Name and call sign KA2BKG from Jeff. I watched the SWR video. Oh, this is the same issue he had where it was varying with power. That's a strange one. I don't have a good answer for you because it shouldn't. It has nothing to do with the power. It's the ratio of the power out and the power reflected. This is from Charles M. Mitchell, KN4QEH. How do you become an Aggie? Very simple. You subscribe. You go to my channel page and subscribe. So you can go to any of my videos and click on my name, David Kassler, underneath, and it will take you to a place where you can subscribe. And it's also on any video, it just has the word subscribe there. By the way, just had a, let me do the top screen here. We're up to 5 million views, and look at that, just went over 49,000 subscribers. And going up subscriber-wise at about 1,100 a month, so in another month we should be at 50,000. I think I'm going to have a party when that happens. Let's go back to live streaming here. All right. This is from Dr. Ian Barry Egerton. It says, hi Dave, I'm on holiday on the Isle of Penang, Malaysia, with an 88 gigabyte YouTube for 5 days. Let's see, so catching up on Ask Dave episodes when it's too hot to venture outside. My question, what are the restrictions to an overseas visitor operating an amateur radio station when visiting the USA? He holds an Australian Advanced Amateur Radio License, okay, VK2IBE. The answer is go to www.iaru.org. It's the International Amateur Radio Union.org, and you will find the answer to your question there. I believe the answer to your question is that you will be able to operate in the United States without any further fuss or muss, but the actual identifying characteristics are listed on the IARU page. Okay, let's see. Trying to answer more. Okay, so the audio is sounding good. Okay, great. Hi from the Cradle of Liberty. That must be Massachusetts. Actually, okay. Hi, Dave. Please, can I use a vertical high gain antenna without coin? It comes to the antenna using manual tuner. The high gain antennas are designed to be tuned so that you don't have to use an antenna tuner. How important it is to install radios if the antenna is 3 meters high, about 10 feet. When you have an elevated antenna like that, you don't need as many radios, but they do need to be tuned. So you should have 2 radios opposite each other for each band on which you want to operate. And you will probably have to do some work to tune those things. From Barnacle Brad, any news on my health issues? Oh, quite a few have noticed that I'm huffing and puffing all the time. I finally had, in January, I talked to my doctor. In February, I had a pulmonary function test, which showed both obstructive and restrictive pulmonary defects. And so now I'm trying to get in to see a pulmonary specialist, and the first appointment they have is May. Okay, so I'm signed up. I'll wait 2 months and hope it doesn't get worse in the meantime. It is getting kind of worse, and I very much would like to talk with a specialist. But that is the latest on the health issue there. It's both obstructive and restrictive defects. One has to do with breathing in, the other has to do with breathing out. So that's about all I've been able to discover on the internet. I don't know how serious it really is. So we'll find out. I'll keep you informed. The left channel is still distorted. Sorry about that. You look and sound very tired. Yeah, that is an effect of this disorder, and I'm hoping that we can kind of fix that a little bit. I'm trying to get control. I had my prostate out. It was cancerous. Had it out 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been gaining weight steadily ever since. And so I'm trying to get a hold on that, because that really contributes to the pulmonary problems. So currently building a Tesla hairpin circuit. My end goal is longitudinal wave transmission. What does the FCC say about this kind of research? Well, if you're going to be transmitting electromagnetic waves, Maxwell's equations govern. And basically, waves don't actually squiggle through the sky like waves in a pond or anything like that. It's an electric field. It's a spot of higher voltage that is traveling at the speed of light, followed by another lump of voltage, and the distance between those two is the wavelength, and that's how you determine the frequency. There's nothing about electromagnetic waves that actually wave. It's just you get a little more voltage, a little less, a little more voltage, a little less, a little more voltage, a little less. And we tend to put voltage on the vertical axis on graphing it so it looks like a sine wave. Okay, there's nothing actually being transmitted that's a sine wave. It's just a disturbance in the electromagnetic field. For a long time, scientists just could not bring themselves to think that Maxwell's equations could be right and that you would not need some sort of a medium for propagation, like air for sound waves. You've got to have the air. There's no noise in space, contrary to the Star Wars movies. But yeah, anyway, that's okay. This is from a guy by the name of Israel, K-E-0-D-E-J. Israel D. Ben Joseph. Recently watched your review of the Anytone ATD878UV, nice radio, and saw that you are local to the Western Slope. I live in Silt and have tried several times to reach out to the Mesa Repeater Club there to try and get some locally relevant info on DMR, and not heard anything back from them. I've emailed and called and left messages on their listed number, nothing. Okay, let me tell you, you got to go. You got to physically go to the meeting, and you've got to meet people. I think what you're talking about is fairly notorious behavior. Everybody thinks somebody else should reply, so go to the meeting. It's just in Grand Junction, and if you're in Silt, you're not that far away. Relative New Ham was active, Thorium Ham, but moved away. Figure out if you can hit any of the DMR repeaters from Silt. I don't know exactly where the DMR repeater is there. I think it's up on Grand Mesa, so you may not be able to hit it from Silt. Of course, you can always get a hotspot. Let's see about Brandmeister repeater that is on Grand Mesa. Yes, that's the one I can hit. I really like to talk to someone with local knowledge. Talk to the repeater owner, that's Bill. Okay. I think he's expressing the frustration a lot of new hams feel when they're trying to figure out what's going on. And the answer is always the same: go to the club meeting. Go to. They don't have any requirement that they have to do anything, actually. I mean, a lot of them will try to be helpful. If you go and you're polite and interested and you keep going to show that you're actually interested, you'll find that people will tend to be accepting, and you can ask your questions a little at a time and people will help you. But go. You got to go. There's really no way around it. This one is from Christopher Berry, KI7CK. And just wanted to thank you. It's been a few years, but stumbling onto your videos made me interested about ham radio, and I was able to, via your informative videos, to go from nothing to general. Failed amateur extra by one question. I'm sure you'll get it next time. And had an additional question. It's about grid square hunting. Do you think you could do a YouTube video on the topic of grid squares and the ARRL awards for them? Also, side questions. Do I hunt grid squares? Not actively, no. This summer, I am planning to activate CM93 while backpacking on Santa Rosa Island. And if that goes well, I'm going to attempt activating DMO2 on a fishing trip. Well, I got to tell you a little something about Santa Rosa Island. See if I can find it here. That's Santa Cruz Island. Okay, that's a little different. I read a book for Audible on Santa Cruz Island. Santa Rosa Island, I think, is one of the California islands. There's a whole string of them out there. Most of them are nature preserves or something close to it. They're very rugged. And if you can activate that grid square from there, I think a lot of people would be very happy to do that. I'm going to set this one aside about doing a video on grid squares. By the way, the coordinate system is called Maidenhead. Maidenhead. So you can look that up in the on the online encyclopedia, Wikipedia, and learn more about that. Okay, let's see. I am a family doc with many pulmonary patients. If I had a list of your meds, I could make suggestions. James Little. James, email me at hamradioanswers@gmail.com. I'm really not taking any pulmonary medications. The test said a bronchodilator showed improvement. So I've got a visit scheduled with my family doctor for this coming Thursday, and I'm going to go over that paperwork with them, see if there's anything I can do in the interim while I wait for the pulmonologist on high. Thank you for your kind words, everybody. I much appreciate that. Why do many long wire antenna setups suggest an inverted L? What does the L do? Well, the reason it's called an inverted L, you've got to get from your shack to one end of the antenna. That's the vertical part, and then the long part is what actually does most of the radiating. And it's just L-shaped, so that's what people call it. There's nothing magical about that particular antenna. If that antenna is more than a couple wavelengths long, you change the antenna to a wave antenna, which is it's different from a dipole. I've always said that the dipole is the basic antenna, and it is, but there are the wave antennas, which are different in the way they work. It'll be very directional in the direction of the wire away from your shack. See, at my QTH, it's tricky to get the vertical section away from the brick and mortar building. It just use insulated wire. How far is far enough from the building in the vertical portion? Well, you'd like a few feet, but if you're not going to get a few feet, do what you can. 3-4 inches, if at all possible. If not, just go put it up and see what you can do with it. Are the new SDR-based transceivers better than the classical ones, non-SDR? Are they worth twice the price of an IC7300? Okay, the IC7300 is a fully software-defined radio, and it is really making waves in the amateur radio community. That one model, it is revolutionary. It is doing for SDR what the FT101 did for the transceiver back in the 1970s. It's just a massively revolutionary rig. Now, are they better? They have the potential to be. Super hets have some noise issues, have often fairly high noise figures. And they get intermodulation distortion and stuff like that. That's inherent in the architecture of a superhead. A superhead is something where you have RF, then you convert it to a first intermediate frequency and then a second intermediate frequency, do some filtering along the way before you finally get to the detector. Okay, an SDR does direct sampling right at the radio frequency. It down converts by what's called decimation, and all digitally, and then everything after that is all digital. The SDRs can be very good. I think we're going to see a quantum improvement in radios, but for most people, you won't notice. I have a Yaesu FTDX 3000, which I love. It's got the best receiver in it I've ever owned. It's a great radio, and I have no complaints, really, about the thing. I'd love to get a hold of a 7300 just to play with it, do some A-B comparisons and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, the 7300 is the low end of the mid-range, okay? I wouldn't normally recommend it for newcomers, but it's so popular that if you get it, you're going to find other people who have it. And so you can get tips from them on how to use it. A very good super heterodyne radio is a very good radio. My FTDX is a super het radio till you get down to the last IF, and then it goes all digital from there. So there are some heterodyning sections in there. Looking at the TS890, the 7610, the 7610 is a way high-end radio. That will blow you away with bells and whistles and buttons and levers and knobs and all that sort of thing. I wouldn't go that far. Okay. This one is from Jacob, KC3MRA. Tippy7 is his email address. It says, "Hi Dave, so how does transmitting on an HF band that the antenna is not tuned to damage the transmitter? Example, transmitting single sideband on 80 meters with a 20-meter antenna." Forgive me if this is a dumb question. I'm a new ham. It's not a dumb question at all. It's a perfectly legitimate question. First of all, SWR, the standing wave ratio, is a measure of how much power you send to the antenna versus how much gets reflected back. If you've got 80 meters going to 20, most of it will be reflected back. So you're sending out 100 watts, and then that thing is sending 100 watts back. Total, that transmitter is having to dissipate 200 watts. 100 to make something, 100 more coming in, and it's a Class A or Class B, Class AB amplifier. So, although some of the newer ones are Class E, but the thing is that it comes back and it gets dissipated in the form of heat. So you want an antenna tuner. What the antenna tuner will catch that reflected power and send it back at the antenna. Okay, but not 20-meter antenna and 80 meters. You're not going to get much out. Now, all modern radios have protective circuits. So if they sense that a lot of energy is coming back, they will shut down gradually. And if the SWR is more than about 2 to 1, they start shutting down. Okay, so okay. I hope that answers the question there. All right, let's see what we got up here. How do SDRs? As a 70-year-old Harley rider, was wondering if you're still riding your bike. I have it. I haven't been on it for 2 years. I was going to take it out, get it fixed up a little bit and sell it this year, but I just found someone else my age who is a rider, so maybe I'll have a riding buddy again and we can go riding. Yaesu SCU17 USB interface unit for many recent Yaesu HF transceivers, and is any better or even different in function than a Tigertronics? Okay, here's the weird thing. Okay, in my instruction manual, it talks about how to hook up the SCU17 interface. But what it doesn't tell you in the manual is that there's already a sound card built in to the radio. So you don't need any kind of an interface except USB. You've got to get the driver off of the ASU website for that. And then just yesterday on this new computer, I set up WSJTX, and it transmits, controls the radio, and does all of that sort of thing. So if you're looking at a recent Yaesu, it may already have a sound card in it. A lot of the new radios do. So now check that out, because my manual doesn't mention it. You'd think it'd be a major feature, and it doesn't mention it. So yeah, it's not any different from the Tigertronics. And if you don't have the built-in sound card, then that Tigertronics thing would probably work just very well. I have a Tigertronics. I used it for a while. Live in a hill about 20% grade with a couple dipoles, 40, 80, 160. 160 dipoles, a whale of a long wire, 80 meters long. And a vertical. Dipoles up 40 feet running up and down the hill. How much does the sloping ground affect the antenna performance? If you take a dipole like this and you tilt it, your propagation will tend to go that way. Okay, you'll get higher angle propagation behind it and lower angle ahead. So, in the direction of the slope. Let's see, this is Greg Miller, K3GEM. Just watch your program 174. Oh, that was the one about the FCC enforcement advisory, where they're saying that, you know, certain radios you're not supposed to use. There's still a lot of controversy over that. The FCC has not responded to the ARRL's request for clarification. Most people are just assuming that the request for clarification will get it right. Says, meanwhile, you said that of all the Chinese radios, only this one You waved an HT around in your hand, is limited to transmitting on amateur frequencies. Sounded if you said the brand name was Oshing. It's Woshing, or Oshing. It's Wouxun. Okay, and they're sold by PowerWorks, or you can get them at ham radio outlet and places like that. So it's Wouxun, pronounced Oshing. The spelling of Chinese words in English, they went from the Penang system that was unpronounceable to this new system, which is unpronounceable. So there's a rule for how it's pronounced, and it's very complicated. I took a Chinese modern history class in college, found it absolutely fascinating. But Chinese is even harder than English to master. It's not only syllabic like English, but it's also tonal. So different tones. You listen to somebody who's speaking in Chinese, it sounds almost sing-song, all the different sound levels, and you got to get them right. Okay, which model is this legal HT? It's one of the first ones that came out. If I knew the info about the particular HT, I would consider buying one rather than a Baofeng. I don't want to annoy the funny cookie company needlessly. Thanks for the info on the good program. 73 is from Greg. All the radios that are coming out these days can transmit outside the band. In QST, as reviewing them, QST just reviewed the Anytone D878, and it can transmit outside the band. There are warnings in the manual, which is written by a native English speaker, that you should not do so. And it was a different radio. Anyway, you shouldn't transmit out. You're a ham, you got a ham license, use it in the ham bands, and don't worry about it. It's kind of the ARRL's thinking on that right now. Okay, we are at the top of the hour, and we haven't even got these into March yet. We will next week, I think. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Any advantage with the ASU SC unit over a signal link for use with the 897? Not that I think of. And he talked about a cheap USB dongle. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a sound card. I had trouble on my old computer. I had used the headphone jack, that's the green one, so much that I wore out the jack and couldn't use it anymore. And so for $7, I got this on Amazon. And it just plugs in USB, and then you've got cables here that can go directly to your audio conditioning. Like I would put isolation transformers in there, and then you need something for push to talk. But this is a far cry from when sound cards were great big cards, which they aren't anymore. So yeah, you can try that and do that. Let's see. $200. Yes, well, it's a name brand. The SCU 17 is $200, whereas for half that you can get the Tigertronics and maybe even a little less the MFJ or West Mountain Radio equivalent. The live stream is labeled 2 March and should be named 9 March. Oh, did I mess that up? Yes, I did. I'll fix that. Okay. Any last questions? Go ahead and put them in there. I think I will wrap up. I do want to mention that I'm starting to come up with the regular Ask Dave style videos. I just did one on the history of digital modes. The next video will be about this. Um, I owe some couple more videos on the D878 Anytone. I'm nicely stacked up with videos. I don't have very much to do. I don't have a problem. I run out of topics, but I'm not running out of topics right now. I really appreciate your feedback. Please feel free to comment in all of the videos, and I see the video comments, at least the first level comments, usually the second level comments, and I'll try to respond where I can. A lot of comments are just comments, so you let them go. And if you are interested in how you can support the channel, go to dcasler.com, dcasler.com/support. All right. Let's see. Easily make your own PTT and audio. Yes. More Ask Dave's coming. DST, yes or no? Let me think about it. I'll send a note out to all subscribers. I think I'm probably, well, I don't know. There were more votes, by the way, for staying with 1900 UTC than there were for Mountain Standard Time, but I think what I'll do is I'll send out a poll, and we'll see how we do. All right. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for sending in those questions, and keep those questions coming in. One day, if I can talk less and answer more, we'll get caught up. Thanks a lot. And 73, guys, I just really enjoy doing this live stream and interacting with all of you. And go Aggies out there. All right. So, 73.